Hello, I'm Erlend, as said, and I'm just returned from Uganda, where one of our research and development units is located. And you know what is the biggest difference between Estonia and Eastern Africa doing business? What? The weather. Yeah. Even there is a rainy season, the difference is still very different. So, but this is not the only difference between Eastern Africa and, let's say, sub-Saharan economic area. Though the general situation of wealthiness is not considerably high. Majority is still very poor, but it's not a problem because available services which they still need, the lack of services is still very, very huge. So we can look that as a business opportunity, of course, to do business in this area. So, yeah, you are most probably not here because of me, but of our speakers. So please let me introduce first our first speaker, Mr. Ngozi, who will speak more detailed about the business opportunities to doing business in fintech area. And he will definitely bring more detailed figures, detailed samples about the detailed business in this area. So, Sir Ngozi, please, from company called, yeah, you changed your company name. Former Paylater, but now you're running company named, my mistake, Carbon. Right. Let's give an applause, Sir Ngozi. Stage is yours.
Thank you very much.
Please.
Cheers. Is there a clicker? Thanks. All right, thank you very much. It's great to be here. I was Latitude last year. Always a pleasure to be in Estonia. My name is Ngozi Dozie. Run a digital bank with my brother called Carbon. If you know the likes of N26, Revolut, that's exactly what we are. And the goal is to be a Pan-African digital bank for the consumers in Africa and also African diaspora. But why Carbon? You know, we started out as a lending company, but really our goal is to provide access, opportunity, and dignity to customers who have been underserved for so long in a very simplified manner. And so we chose the name Carbon because, you know, carbon is one of the most found elements in the world. It's very versatile, and the goal is to be there for our customers, you know, everywhere in as flexible a format as possible. And today I'll run you through the opportunity in Nigeria in particular, and also some of the lessons we've learned. So that's our mission, to ignite personal growth through financial innovation. And so we think the smartphone is a medium. The finance is just an excuse. We want to help you through finance, whether it's payments, loans, etc. But at the same time, we also want to use that as a medium to provide, whether it's telemedicine, whether it's insurance, whether it's education. And so that's how we like Carbon, because we want to be everything that the customer needs. So just looking at the opportunity, we know that there's a lot of financial exclusion on the African continent. And if you look at the numbers, most of it tends to be about 6% of populations are financially excluded, which means that they don't have some of the services that we take for granted, whether it's payments, access to a bank account, etc. And I'll focus on Nigeria, which is where I'm from. Who's been to Nigeria, actually? Just a show of hands. Who's been to Nigeria that is not? OK, we need to work on this, right? I've come here twice. We need to reciprocate. So Nigeria is, you know, in terms of population, the giant of Africa. 200 million people, 100 million adults. You know, there's been a huge smartphone penetration. There are about 30 million smartphones. But in terms of financial services, it's still very small. So on any given year, only about 2% of those 100 million adults actually have a loan with a financial institution. It's about 2 million people, 2%. If we just look at credit cards, so there are about 30 million banked individuals. Of those, only about 300,000 have credit cards. Estonia has about 1.4 million people. There are actually more credit cards in Estonia than a country with 100 million adults. So that just portrays the kind of opportunity that we're seeing. And unlike what you may think as to who that customer is that is excluded, he or she looks like me. Right? The mere fact that I can travel doesn't mean that I've been well served by the bank. So before we started, it would take about 2 weeks for me to go to a local bank to try and get a loan and be told no. Not to get the cash, but be told, no, sorry, we can't give it to you. And so our solution to this was Paylater, it's now Carbon. It's the Carbon app, which was a app-only digital platform, downloaded from the Android store. And within 5 minutes, we would get you a loan from anything from about $200 to $600 into your bank account. We did that with the customer's permission, taking data on the phone to try and assess whether that customer what kind of income they had, and how creditworthy they were. And it's been a phenomenal success. We then layered on a lot of other features, bill payments, free credit reports, money transfer, and the goal is to keep adding services as customers request those services. And it's been fairly successful to date. So the app's been downloaded 1.5 million times on the Play Store. Customers like it, 4.3 rated. We process about 8,000 loans every day, all automated, no human intervention. And so it's brilliant. We're happy, correct? It's a joke. So 8,000 loans a day, brilliant. But I've given you some very big numbers. There are about 70 million people in Nigeria that are financially excluded. So we're the little guys there, but we want to be the big dog, right? And so we had to take a step back and think, okay, if there's so many people who want loans or services, why are we not being inundated by customers? And we did some research, and it wasn't too pretty. We found out, for starters, 80% of our customers were men and not women, as opposed to women. And when we look at smartphone penetration in Nigeria, it should be about 55% men, 45% women. So we did a deep dive into our customer base, and we decided to actually focus on customers and those who are not customers, and also focus on women entrepreneurs. The idea being that if we can solve extreme problems for individuals, we can solve problems for everyone. And so I'm going to go through a few case studies as to what we saw and how we are looking to solve these problems to help take us back to that big guy on the right-hand side. So the first one, talk to an entrepreneur. So we talked to many female entrepreneurs, but these are the ones that were most exciting. So a female entrepreneur who was running a sex shop. If anyone knows my wife, I was not a customer. This was just purely for business reasons. So her problem was huge demand, but all her customers only wanted to pay cash. Clearly, they didn't want to put their card on the website. They didn't want anyone knowing who their name was or tracing it back to their debit card. And so this was an issue for her because it meant that her payment system, which was integrated with her inventory system, was having issues reconciling, which means that it was all a mess. And so when we look at that problem, we saw that problem of I have a card but don't want to pay is also the same as the problem of the 70 million who don't have a card but potentially want to pay. And so we're now looking at the solution as to, is there a medium through which we can let people pay for goods in a digital manner without actually leaving identity? So potentially blockchain or Bitcoin can help. But these are the kind of tools that we're looking at to potentially solve this problem. If we can solve her problem, you can probably solve the problems of many other people who have smartphones, have a digital identity, but do not have that conventional bank account. The second one was a lady who sells amazing African attire on Etsy. So she has customers in the States and in Europe, and it's amazing, a huge demand for her services. But the problem she has is that as a Nigerian, she hasn't got the opportunity to get a foreign bank account to collect all those dollars and euros. So what's her hack? She sends the money from Etsy to a friend's PayPal account who lives in the UK. When the funds are received, friend then says, she then asks her friend, please, can you send money to me via WorldRemit? There's a fee there. And then it goes to one of her accounts in Nigeria. So you have this situation where these digital flows could be coalesced into a very simple app, giving that entrepreneur, one, control of all her financial flows, but also, without having to ask friends to please send me money, that's my money. And so that's one of the areas we're working on right now is launching the Carbon app in the UK so that we can integrate, potentially partnership with the likes of WorldRemit or TransferWise, so that Nigerian customer can actually get funds, transfer funds to Nigeria or out of Nigeria without having to make phone calls to others. And the last is my favorite example, where we met an advertising executive who had a small trading business, and she used to borrow from friends and family to get working capital to fund her business. And then when she got married, she stopped borrowing. And you may think she stopped borrowing because, okay, there were two husband and wife, joint incomes, and so there was no need to go to friends and family. But it actually turns out she was a breadwinner amongst two of them. And the reason she stopped borrowing was because, unfortunately, in Nigeria, it's still a very patriarchal society. And she said if she went back to friends and family to still borrow, they would think that, why can't your husband support you? You must have married a bad husband. And so she was now excluded just because of a societal norm that doesn't make sense. And so with the Carbon app, she can actually borrow in a very discreet manner without friends and family knowing. But again, there are many problems like this. And so we talk about financial innovation, fintech, the big numbers, but the main lesson we found is that for you to really leverage and exploit the opportunities that financial innovation, fintech brings, you need to really understand the customer, to look at local solutions for local problems using global tools. And so we recently launched basically an account called Bloom, targeted at female entrepreneurs. And the goal is to provide advisory first to female entrepreneurs, to actually ask them, what do you need? Via a call center, also via digital channels. And through that, get more of these solutions, problems rather, that we can try and solve. Because we believe that if we solve these extreme problems, we can solve for everyone. That's it for me. I think there's a Q&A afterwards, but thank you very much, and very happy to meet all of you later on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
So, we got more detailed. We got to know that almost everyone who is able to push a button has a mobile phone. So that's a huge opportunity for a fintech areas business. So our next speaker will discuss about more specified about the situation and how to design digital products based on a local culture and traditions and needs. So she will bring some very specific case studies again to simplify the understanding how the business can be made. So please make a warm welcome to Akinyi from company WorldRemit. You saw already. Hello.
you.
And you.
Okay, great.
Please.
Hi, I'm Akinyi. I am a strategist, I'm a social impact leader, but most importantly, I'm a storyteller. And so today I'm here to tell you a story that I hope will inspire you. And the first step on that journey will be in Harare, Zimbabwe, which you see pictured here. Here we find ourselves outside a Forex or money transfer outlet, with people queuing outside to receive money that family and friends from abroad have sent home. This is a scene you'll find across the world in countries where people frequently send money, like Zimbabwe, as well as in sender countries like the US or the UK, where immigrants are queuing to send money home to their loved ones. Globally, 1 in 7 people is a sender or recipient of remittances. Previously, that would have meant that on either side of the exchange, people were standing and queuing in lines like this to send or receive money. But increasingly, that's shifting because of digital technology. It's expanding the market, and it's making it easier than ever for people to integrate into the global financial system. So I'll tell you a bit about remittances, and hopefully through that lens, you'll begin to understand how digital technology is catering to previously underserved markets and making formerly informal billion-dollar opportunities. So globally, remittances are a $700 billion market. In sub-Saharan Africa, 46 billion is sent every year. Remittances are peer-to-peer payments. So this 46 billion is all of the small transfers of money between individuals. That's not including business payments. It's someone sending money for groceries, someone sending money to pay medical bills or school supplies. Just ordinary individuals trying to get by. But remittances are increasingly, or rather, remittances are still dominated by offline industry. So 90% of the entire remittance industry is conducted in cash at high street agents. That means as a sender, you have to go queue in a line, pay in cash, fill out paperwork in order to send money home. As a recipient, you have to go visit a collection agent, queue, and take money home, incurring all the security risks that come with that. And moreover, the cost of all that cash is high. So globally, the average cost of sending remittances is about 7.6%. In sub-Saharan Africa, it's around 9.5%. And in some quarters, can go up to 20%. In South Africa, for example, one of the biggest remittance sending hubs in the continent, it's around 15%. And the Africa Progress Panel estimates that remittances sent through traditional MTOs are overcharging Africans by over 2 billion each year. So that's an opportunity. How do we bring an offline industry into an online future? And that's where WorldRemit comes in. When we talk about improving an entire economy, we talk about bringing Africa into the global financial system. We have to think about how cash is a barrier to that, and how we can use digital technology to further build those connections between Africa and the rest of the world. And mobile phones can be transformative in this approach. So today, remittances have to be as mobile as we are. We talked about how it's a $700 billion industry, and 46 billion of that is sent to Africa. 2 billion of that is lost in overcharges. So let's use mobile technology to bridge that gap. The founders of WorldRemit determined that the only way to meaningfully reduce the cost for diaspora to send money was to bring remittances out of that traditional agent branch model into an online world where transactions can be processed instantly and your money can be moved safely from your hands. Going digital is not only low cost, it's fast, it's simple, and it's more secure. And that opportunity is enabled largely because across Africa, there's 475 million mobile subscribers and over 400 million mobile money accounts. And the impact of mobile money is particularly high in rural areas, which are traditionally underserved because of infrastructure gaps and the cost of service out in the hinterlands. But international mobile-to-mobile transfers are one of the services WorldRemit offers, and we've seen how that service offering particularly impacts rural areas. In countries like Uganda or Ghana, for example, 90% of our transfers to rural areas are made by mobile money. So I'll give you just one example of how digital technology can be transformative. When Edith needed to send money home to Kenya from South Africa earlier this year, she didn't have to worry about long queues or paperwork as she might have had to in the past. Instead, she took out her phone, tapped the WorldRemit app, punched an amount, and pressed the send button. And within 5 taps, her family back home in Kenya was able to access cash instantly. Earlier this year, WorldRemit launched in South Africa because we saw the potential of an underserved market that had a digitally savvy population that was increasingly online. 73% of South Africans, in a recent survey, said that they would make a payment via their phone. So why hasn't anyone served that market? We decided to. So now customers in South Africa can send to over 145 countries worldwide with just a few taps from their phone. And the South African market is a $2 billion remittance market. Pretty good opportunity for us. So we've talked about mobile money, we've talked about remittances, and these are foundational technologies. And what's interesting that really fintech in Africa was perceived for the most part as domestic payments, and that's gradually giving way to an entire ecosystem of products, from payments to lending and finance to financial management tools to investment, consumer banking, and more. And more companies are seizing opportunities beyond these domestic P2P payments. Mobile money users in Ghana and Kenya, for example, can now apply for small personal loans based on their personal credit history. And emerging international players are beginning to pay attention. Branch, for example, which makes small personal loans in emerging markets, now offers its service in Kenya, Nigeria, and Tanzania, and just raised $170 million to further expand its network. And earlier today, you heard from Ngozi from Carbon about what they're doing in Nigeria and beyond. So I tell you this to give you a picture of the foundation that, oops, sorry. I tell you this to give you a picture of the foundation that's been laid for future opportunity. Remittances, mobile money, these are just the groundwork of where the next opportunities and innovation lie. But looking at the ways in which people transact is a talisman that tells you where the next big innovations lie in Africa. And we're keen to partner and expand our network by relying on these platforms. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Akinyi. You have now realized that there are really huge opportunities. But I really would like to emphasize the continent of Africa is huge. The countries are actually also very huge by size. For example, Mali, where is Estonian troopers are with others NATO allies, it's twice bigger than France. So always when I was hearing in the previous times, some Estonian companies, they would like to go and conquer of a Chinese market. Just relax, focus on one town. Same is in Africa. Focus on one country and start from there. Because the continent is huge. Countries are really big. Population is enormous. And so, of course, the problems, what they have currently, they are huge. And fintech area, some problems can be solved already, as we just saw. But now I would like to introduce one more guy who has quite successfully started to solve another huge problem in those African countries. And this is a problem of transportation. So, former Taxify, current company called Bolt, and Karl. Please welcome Karl from Bolt, and Karl will speak about transportation solutions in Africa. So, hello, Karl.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you to Ngozi and Akinyi. Really making an impact, building something that people want, that they deserve, that is not given to them before. So my name is Karl. I'm the expansion manager. I'm responsible for African markets at the Bolt. We used to be named Taxify before. Yes, we have an animation. So there's a funny story about this animation. So the animation actually cost us more than all of the travels we did in 2016 to Africa, because we didn't do any. Right. What is Bolt doing? Bolt is creating a way for a billion people to move around in Europe and Africa. We want to save time, we want to save money, and we want to save and protect the environment in the course of doing so. Why is it so important? First of all, people spend a lot of time in traffic every day. So on average, every African spends more than an hour a day commuting. We have team members in our Lagos team who are commuting up to 6 hours every day, from home to work and back home. Think about this, 6 hours spent in traffic from your whole one working day. Personal cars, they're only used 5–10% of the time. The rest of the 90%, they are sitting in parking lots. Parking lots take millions of, there are millions of parking lots in every city. Mostly this is unusable land for any other purpose. And there's a problem with missing public transportation. Most of the cities in Africa do not have a proper public transportation system yet in place, or it's poorly managed. There are some exceptions, which is a very good sign, but mostly this is the case. So instead of public transportation options, you have private buses, depending on a city, called matatus, danfos, smaller, bigger ones. They are mostly not on schedule, so they don't run on time. They arrive when they want to arrive. They are mostly overpacked, meaning that if you have a danfo in Lagos with 14 people, 14 seats, you may have up to 20–25 people sitting in the same bus, which is not a very convenient experience. Africa will see a massive increase in mobile subscribers, so the access to this kind of services will increase for a lot of the African population. So the number of mobile subscribers is going to increase to more than 630 million subscribers by 2025. Akinyi showed you before the current state of 475 million, so another close to 200 million people will have access to these kind of new transportation options. The population will grow massively in the next 30 years. So Africa is estimated to be the fastest growing continent globally. And by 2050, estimates put the population in Africa to more than 4 billion people. We believe that on-demand transportation itself will be growing from 3 main factors. There will be increasing use of ride-sharing. There will be increasing uses of pooling options. The public transportation will increase in volume as well, and all of this will be taken on the account of personal cars. So in the next 10 years, we think that the on-demand transportation model will increase in volume up to 10 times from the current 1–4%, depending on the city, depending on how many providers there are, how well established the on-demand service is in the city. So we have been in Africa for the last 3 years, since 2016. And I wanted to share with you some of the things we learned along the way. So for us, the 2 main learnings is that you have to have a product that caters the local environment, the local market, and you have to have a proper team, a good team in place. If you have a good product, if you have a good team, you can go to any country. It doesn't need to be in Africa. And for us, a good product means that we are taking lower commission from the drivers, meaning drivers are happier, they're earning more for every trip. And at the same time, with these lower commissions, we're able to give some of this money back to the riders, meaning that riders get the lower price and the drivers are earning more per trip with us, which means riders are happy, the drivers are happy. We also localize the route, so we have a local product. We listen to the customers to what they want to see in our app in their markets, and we do a lot of localizations in terms of offering local payment methods in unbanked or low credit card penetration markets. We offer telco payments, and we do local services and products, which I will talk about in a second. So for us, we're currently in 6 countries. We launched our first city in Johannesburg in 2016 in April. We did not go there ourselves. At the moment, we're in more than 25 cities, and we hope to be in more than 75 cities by end of this year. So we're focusing on the 6 countries we're already present. These countries combined give us an addressable market of more than 450 million people already from the total plus 1.2 billion in Africa today. We have 250 people. So if you're talking about Bolt in Africa, then all the people who are working on the African markets, 99% of them are actually working on the in the African cities. So I'm basically just sitting alone in Tallinn, and then everybody else is actually in the cities, working on the cities. And this is a picture of us, our founder, Marcus, and some other colleagues going to Cape Town. This is in 2017. And why I wanted to show this picture is that this is actually about 12 months after we launched the market. So we had never gone there. We launched in South Africa without never going to the market. When we were going there in 2017, we had a team of 30 people. And for us, we had only seen them in Skype calls, doing the interviews, and we had seen them on our Skype or Slack profile pictures, right? So we would need to connect the person to the picture. And with this in mind, it's even more important to have a team that works well, a team that works independently, remotely. And we were really lucky in terms of having a proper team in place to launch the product that we had at the time. In terms of localizations, we have local payment methods, as I mentioned. But from my side, I truly believe that the biggest opportunity that Africa has in terms of ride-hailing is coming from motorcycles. So today there are hundreds of thousands of motorcycles already offering different services. They're offering delivery, they're offering courier services, and they're offering ride-hailing offline to millions of people in Africa. It's not safe. The quality of the cars, nobody knows. Most of these drivers don't have licenses, and they don't have helmets most of the time. Where we come in is that we check the drivers, make sure that they're compliant, that they're trained, they're licensed. We provide the gear, we provide helmets and vests. We have also provided med kits to some of the drivers. And we're giving them full training on how to drive safely, how to provide a safe and comfortable experience to their customers. And on top of that, we're increasing their earnings by just allowing more customers to access their service on these roads. And if you compare African markets to Southeast Asian markets, where we already have a very successful motorcycle environment, then there's more than 150 times difference between the volumes of motorcycle trips in Southeast Asia and the ones in the African markets. Yeah, and finally, coming back to the team. So I'm sitting here alone in Tallinn, but nothing would have been possible in Africa if we didn't have an amazing team. And we were really lucky in terms of being able to first of all, remotely hire hundreds of people into the African markets and to work with them in a remote basis to actually make the product work, make the support work, make the offer work for both drivers and customers. So if you are anywhere listening, I just want to say thank you. And from my side as well, and from the Honey Badger side, thank you and have a great day.
Thank you, Karl. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Karl. Yeah. Is it working? Yeah. So, very efficiently, as you can do in African markets, all startuppers who has a business model or application which is highly scalable, hands up. Few, yeah. This is a market for you, basically. As you saw, as Karl shown, the population growth is enormous. And you cannot just sell things, but to offer services via fintech or mobile phone or solving some local problems, it's a very big business opportunity for you. So, for example, one huge problem as well is recycling. It's quite unusual is recycling in sub-African markets. Yes, they do some glass bottles, but the first time I saw collected plastic bottles in big bags. So some first kind of elements of recycling, general recycling, is taking place. They do want to follow Western examples, but it takes time. So the main paradigm shift, maybe, for you, don't expect very quick results on this market, because the approach to the time is a bit different. So we are constantly lacking of time, because time has passed. Then usually in Africa, time is not a problem. Time is coming always. Yeah, so you have more time. If you don't have time now, it's coming. Yeah. So, but anyhow, you still have some questions. If you have, please follow us and at the TransferWise question and answering corner, AMA. So you can ask questions from our speakers. So thank you very much coming to listening us, and see you in question and answering corner right now.